We're in Tasmania's House of Assembly, and yes, we're talking about politics, but don't scroll away just yet. Since the state election, we've been hearing a lot about how the minority government needs confidence and supply. But what does that actually mean? Well, I've roped in our chief political nerd, Adam Langenberg, to explain.
Hi.
Angus, sit down, please. Right, so we're on the crossbench seats, and the crossbench is going to be much larger than usual in this term of Parliament. Jeremy Rockliff has made agreements for confidence and supply with 3 Jacqui Lambie Network MPs and the 2 independents there as well. What does supply mean?
Supply is basically a government's ability to be able to pass its own budget and then money bills, things like paying frontline workers, health staff, teachers. So in a majority situation, that's something that happens almost automatically. The government has the numbers, but here in minority, they don't, and they need that guarantee of supply.
Right, so to talk about confidence, let's go and pretend we're taking over the top job.
Yep, let's do it.
Comfy. So we are now in the Premier's and the Deputy Premier's chairs. Now, an MP or a party can raise a no confidence motion against the Premier or a minister or the government as a whole. What does that mean?
So a no confidence motion is pretty serious business in Parliament. Basically, an MP stands up and says that a government or a minister or the Premier has done something wrong and they want to chastise them for it. So convention dictates that if a no confidence motion is passed in a government or the Premier, that they should resign or call an early election.
So if someone's promised confidence, what does that mean?
Basically that they're not going to support a no confidence motion, and that if the government's worried about the numbers for any reason and they move a motion of confidence, that they'll support that as well. Of course, there are some carve-outs in the agreements that the independents and minor parties have signed, basically that if there's any corruption or malfeasance or those kind of things from the government, that they will consider voting for that no confidence, but no stunts.
And there is some reliance on that being, like as part of that agreement, that is dependent on Jeremy Rockliff being Premier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually expressly written into David O'Byrne's agreement and then the agreement with the Jacqui Lambie Network as well.
What are some of the other differences between the Jacqui Lambie Network's agreement and Christy Johnston's agreement and David O'Byrne's agreement?
The agreements with the 2 independents are pretty bare bones, really. Christy Johnston and David O'Byrne promise confidence and supply and not much else. But the Jacqui Lambie Network agreement goes a fair bit further than that. It says basically that they won't support anything that binds a government. So that can be a motion that forces a government to do something like produce a document. And then also that they won't support committees unless the government wants them to. So an example of that is the ambulance ramping committee that ran last Parliament. So under that agreement, if the government didn't want it to go ahead, the Jacqui Lambie Network couldn't vote for it either.
Now, we have seen some pretty chaotic scenes in these seats in the last year or so. Do these agreements mean that, in theory, that there'll be a smooth path in Parliament over the next up to 4 years?
Not really. I mean, smoother than last Parliament where the government was constantly getting surprised by different votes because lots of the agreements stipulate that they need to give 24 hours notice of their intention on key votes. But really, they're free to vote however they want on government business, so there's no guarantee that anything the government wants done actually gets done. And so we'll just wait and see. It's certainly going to be a more collaborative approach in Parliament than we've seen before and should be lots of fun.